Today's guest has built a fast-growing seven-figure business, and they have a unique but very repeatable way of generating profitable video content for their brand. It's a unique approach I haven't seen anyone use before, but after today, I suspect most of you will follow suit in a new way to further grow your businesses.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to have with us today Jacob Kirstein. He's the founder, inventor, and really serial entrepreneur behind Chapie. It's a great product. We're going to talk more about it. If you haven't heard about it, you'll learn more today. Both the product, but also the story behind it. First of all, Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. So first off, let's talk for our audience's benefit. If they haven't heard of Chapie, what is it and how'd you come up with the idea?
Sure. Yeah. So I had been an inventor most of my way through college, starting in 2018. And I tried a bunch of things and for foreground, Chapie's a suite of vacuum insulated containers that prevents all sorts of cosmetics from melting. So how did I come up with it? I was in college and trying a bunch of different things. And one day I got a call from a good friend and he's like, hey, someone was at dinner saying that their lip balm always melts. And is there any way to prevent that? So I 3D printed a prototype. I threw it on TikTok. It went viral. And I knew I really had a good idea that I should run with.
I love the concept. So I've got one here. I can show our audience. I know you've got a couple as well. So if you think about like a vacuum insulated cup or bottle, everyone's familiar with those, right? A similar technology, but it holds lipstick, or in my case, a chapstick inside, which is actually from a previous podcast guest from a couple of weeks ago. I'll tell you what I love about this is, you and I were chatting before we got started. You're in Miami, I'm in Denver. And as we record this, it's in the middle of winter. It was 3 degrees here in Denver. Miami's very different this time of year, of course. I'm jealous. But, for me, like leaving it in the car now is not a problem. But I keep it in my pocket all day. And by the time I get home, just, your pockets get warm and I open up my chapstick. It's like, ready to fall out or misshapen or whatever. So for me now, that's what I've loved about it. I'm really looking forward to this summer as well, keeping it, that's everybody's got that story, right? A hot car, even on a not crazy hot day, but the sun beating down will just melt I can only imagine cosmetics, but of course, even just chapstick, and it works phenomenal.
People all the time accidentally leave it in their dryer and the dryer just destroys your clothes when you put chapstick in it because people leave it in their pocket and they'll put their pants through the wash. And the dryer will melt the lip balm and it destroys all their clothes. So if it's in a Chapie, it may still melt in the dryer. Oftentimes it doesn't, but it may, depending how hot your dryer gets. But because it seals watertight, it doesn't destroy your clothes. So it protects your clothes even in the dryer.
I hadn't even thought of that, but that is a common thing. I know our kids have certainly done that. That's why we've learned to keep our laundry loads separate from theirs. You never know what's in their pockets. But chapstick is certainly one of them.
And we had a lot of fun
So
with the different designs. Just, we made the world's first insulated box. For those of you audio only, I'm holding up a Chapie Pro, which can fit the size of deodorant. And it also seals watertight. And it's the world's first vacuum insulated box, which was pretty fun to make, had its own engineering challenges with it.
You say that amazes me. We hadn't really talked about the box yet. The world's first vacuum insulated box is kind of hard to believe. Why do you think that is? It seems like such an obvious thing if you're out like at the beach or in a car, right? Or whatever it might be, but keeping anything, not just your drinks, right? But other things away from the heat. Why do you think that is? Like, it's phenomenal to me that nobody's done that before.
It's actually has a little bit to do with engineering. And soon after we released Chapie Pro, someone ended up releasing a vacuum insulated cooler that was also box shaped. But you don't really want a stainless steel cooler. It's too heavy. It's not practical. It makes more sense the way that we have it, as almost like a lunchbox size. But the engineering constraints is a circle has even distribution of stress throughout the geometry. there's no sharp corners, kind of like how an airplane window is an oval instead of a square, because the stress concentrates in the corners. So with the box, you have to use a little bit thicker of a material, and you have to use some braces in between the two shells. So there's a little bit of an engineering challenge there, and we had a lot of deformed Chapie Pros when we were first starting, but we ended up figuring it out.
Now, do you have an engineering background? Because these are complex things that you've figured out and others haven't.
I have a background in aerospace engineering. I worked for SpaceX and NASA.
Oh, very cool. So we can call you a rocket scientist.
Sure.
That sounds good. So it is rocket science to create this type of product. And what have you found are the most common uses? So if we get back to I would call it the regular Chapie or the original size, is it chapsticks, lipsticks, or other uses that people have had for these?
People use it to carry medicine. People don't like their medicine getting hot. I've had a lot of people use the Pro for EpiPens, or the OG size, which is keychain size, just for pills. A lot of medicine has temperature sensitivity, so it's been great for that. You can fit like a sandwich or yogurt in Chapie Pro. So some people use it for that, but it's not super common. And a lot of people like to use Chapie Pro to protect their phone if they're on a boat, and water splashing in the boat. It's a nice waterproof container that keeps their phone from getting too hot as well.
Now, does it float if it were to go overboard?
I don't know. Our cooler floats. Yeah. My bet would be, actually, I know the OG doesn't. I would think that the Pro does.
Okay. We'll have to test that out. So you and I were chatting before. I want a couple of stories I want to dive deep on in this conversation. First one's kind of a negative one, learning from it. And then the next one is some great advice. I really want our listeners to stick around for a few minutes because it's super ingenious way. Now, we've done, I don't know, over 200 of these podcast interviews, and I've launched over 300 products to date in the last 18 years since I launched this company. And so I'm not often surprised by new ways of doing things. If I haven't done it, I've heard about it, right? So typically I feel like that. But you shared something, and we're going to get to it in a few minutes, that is, I think, groundbreaking, a super cool idea, simple approach, but different and a unique way of thinking about things that I think our audience is going to love. Before that, though, let's dive into what I call the negative story. So in your early days, you did not a crowdfunding campaign, but a pre-order campaign, and had sort of an issue with your manufacturer. Would you mind sharing? I guess let's start off by just describing the pre-order campaign a little bit, what that means, right? As opposed to crowdfunding. And then what was the issue you ran into?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I posted the TikTok right out of college after trying a bunch of products and kind of learning the value of failing fast. TikTok went viral, and it was time to see if I could start a pre-sale. I don't particularly like Kickstarter. I support their company because they give entrepreneurs who don't really know what they're doing a shot. But in my opinion, why give them a percentage, and why risk losing all your pre-order funds if you don't have to? So I launched on a typical Shopify with just verbiage on the website that said this is a pre-order, and launched a Kickstarter style video to get traffic, put that across our website, made some shorts, 15-second clips to run on Facebook ads, and started gathering some pre-orders, even using that TikTok that went viral as a Facebook ad, and started gathering some pre-orders. And once I had a critical mass of pre-orders, I was like, okay, it's time to put this into production, because these people are going to need their order. So I had a little bit of saved up. I took a little bit from the pre-orders, a little bit of my savings, because, a lot of my savings was just going into the ads, and sent $7,500 to a manufacturer that I found on Alibaba. After communicating with them since the inception of the pre-order. So it had been about 2 or 3 months of communicating. And, they had sent me pictures of prototypes and, getting very close to the design that I wanted, because a vacuum insulated container this small has never been made. And back to the engineer brained people out there, one of the big challenges making Chapie was the bend radius of the sheet metal. Where water bottles are much bigger, they can get much larger bend radiuses. But when we were trying to bend and press such a small container, the metal would break and fracture. So we had a big challenge, but we were getting closer, about 3 months in. And I was like, all right, I'm going to send the money now. Let's get these like real professional molds made and start production. And I sent the money and they said, all right, we're working on it. And I said, okay. Another month went by, collected more pre-orders. I'm like, any updates? We're working on it. Can I get some pictures? No pictures yet. We're still waiting. Another month went by. All right, what's going on, guys? We're working on it. Are you sure? Send me some pictures of progress. By the third month, same song and dance. We're working on it. And I knew something was wrong. So I went back through the email chain, and I realized that one letter was off from the email that I was originally emailing. So let's say it was jacob@chapie.com. It was jacobk@chapie.com, but it was a longer email address, very hard to notice. And I replied and I said, is this the same person? And I got no answer. And I realized my money was gone. I had been scammed. So I went to the FTC website, contacted my bank, filed an FBI report. I owed people product, and I had no more money. I had just a little bit more money, which I'll get to, but that was like, I don't know, 80% of my funds. It was a lot. So I contacted everyone. Basically, everyone told me my money was gone. And I had a choice, which was to empty my life savings, empty all the pre-order money and give it one more shot, or use the money I still had, refund the customers, lose everything, and not have a business. So I decided, all right, let me try this again. And I went to a website, USA Manufacturers or something, or China. Overseas manufacturer. It was some website that was not Alibaba, and I just emailed 100 manufacturers my plan because again, this was really hard to make. And finally, someone reached out and said that they could make it and that I needed to send them the money. And I said, before I send you the money, I only have one shot. I just got scammed. Can you prove that you can make it? And they said, don't worry, we're going to do this for free. I'm so sorry you got scammed. They sent me a finished product for free like 3 weeks later. And around that time, I got a call from my bank and they said that they recovered the money. So, you know, the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur are real. And when it rains, it usually pours. But yeah, we were able to get the first production ready model and the money back. And yeah, pre-orders were severely delayed, but, you know, I communicated with customers and people understood that we were just a startup, so they were understanding.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. I'm sorry for the pain. I can only imagine what you went through. It does show, you know, your tenacity, right? The fact that you didn't give up, right? You kept pushing, even though everyone's telling you, and we all think, no, there's no way you're getting your money back. There's scammers everywhere. Good luck. So it's phenomenal that because you pushed through, you were able to get your money back. And of course, find that other manufacturer. And there are good ones out there, right? So that's great to hear that you found one that would lean into it and take a risk with you, right? Send you a sample without charging for it. I got to ask a couple of questions. So one is the email address. So do you think the original manufacturer you were working with was legit and then somebody else got a similar email address and kind of scammed you? Or was it that original manufacturer that was doing the scam?
It's very possible, and it's a mystery to this day. How I got my money back is still a mystery to this day. The bank doesn't know, nor do I. And the manufacturer with the original email, I ended up, you know, once I figured it out, I emailed them and I said, what the heck is going on? And they said, oh my God, we had been hacked. They emailed all my customers and pretended to be me. Did that happen? Maybe. Why didn't they email me? I just dropped off the face of the earth. Why didn't they ever email me and say anything? If I had to guess, I think the manufacturer may have been behind it, possibly. You know, US is pretty easy to scam. We're very far away. But yeah, it's a mystery.
Well, so glad you solved it and worked it out. I want to ask a couple more things. So one is you talked about pre-orders versus crowdfunding. I think you did a really good job comparing the two. One thing I want to note for our audience, if you haven't gone down that road before, because we get this question all the time is, hey, what should I do? I don't have a lot of money to be able to market this. Should I just put it on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever? And it used to be, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, right? So before they even existed, when they were brand new and they didn't have a lot of competitors or products on the site, it was a great it's still good. It's a very good platform. Like you said, I appreciate what they do, but it's different than it was. In the early days, you could just show up and that might have been enough if you got a good product. But nowadays, you're in a sea of thousands of other products. So to be found on Kickstarter, for example, is like being found on Amazon, right? Without any marketing, or on Google almost, right? So it is important. You still have to do the marketing. So I love the pre-order strategy, as you talked about, because it's very similar. At the end of the day, either way, you got to pay for marketing. So Facebook and Instagram, we'll get into in a second, are very common ways to do that. But you've got to do that on Kickstarter. So depending on your situation, but if pre-orders work, there's a lot more that goes into the conversation or the decision. But
yeah, I mean, on the
off
chance that you trend on the Kickstarter homepage, maybe you get a little bit of free press, but banking, what is it, 10% of your sales, 20% of your sales, and the fact that you may not meet your goal. It's so challenging to set an achievable goal. Because what if you set it too high and you miss it by a couple grand? I have a friend that set a goal. It was like 50K in pre-sales. He hit 40 and he had to cover the other 10 just to get the money. Granted, he paid himself, but now Kickstarter gets a percentage of his money for no reason.
Right. Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, and that so often happens. So a lot of people will choose, if you set your goal at, let's say, it should be 50K in order to get my whatever it is, right? Well, let me start off with 20K just because I want to make sure I get the money. And then you end up with 21 and you're like, well, that's not quite enough. So it is that hard decision where in pre-orders, you're in full control. You can still send the money back if something goes wrong, assuming someone doesn't take all the money, right? But you can control that situation much more. And as you said, keep the margin. So I love that approach. I think it's a great way to go. As we talk about now, since then, you've grown the business tremendously and had great success with it over the past few years and growing at double digits each year now, which is fantastic. Can you tell us what has worked best? So what marketing strategy has been the best thing for your business?
Getting on Amazon was definitely a big jump for us. In a way, it split our sales. And in another way, it doubled our sales. So we lost some sales from our website, but we gained double through Amazon. So double-edged sword, because Amazon takes a percentage, but that was a big growing point for our business. Also finding like quality sales channels. Walmart.com doesn't really perform for us. eBay.com doesn't really perform for us. A small company called Grommet, which is just like a new product marketplace, does great for us. And that has also grown our sales. So finding new sales channels, definitely a key thing. Going from Facebook ads to TikTok ads, that's another great thing. For some reason, although our original video went viral on TikTok, we haven't been able to be profitable with TikTok ads. So that's a hurdle we still try to climb, and don't totally understand why we do so much better on Facebook, maybe because it's a little more expensive of a product. But yeah, sales channels would be the number one thing. And then kind of having a formula for scaling creatives. This is something I've learned through mentors throughout the year, which is testing one video, but with 3 or 4 different hooks, finding the best hook, and then testing that video with 3 benefits put in different orders. So benefit 1, 2, 3, benefit 3, 2, 1, benefit 2, 1, 3, testing that. And then once you have the hook and the benefit solution, and then you can test your call to action. So you test 5 call to actions. And that's a really great way of scaling a winning creative.
And, I kind of teased, this is great advice, but the one piece that really stands out as truly unique is how you find some of your content creators. And I love this approach. Can you describe the process that's been successful for you to get, and before you do, I kind of want to couch this, maybe you'll talk about it in more detail, but part of the issue with getting UGC or user generated content for content creation, it works really well, right? If you do it right. But a lot of them look salesy, they look fake, right? It's like it's trying to find good creators that will create powerful or effective content for you. And I love the approach that you've developed. So if you could share that.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously UGC, user generated content, is an absolute must for all brands in 2025, even for the last 3 years. And it's probably only going to become more important. Entire app ecosystems have been built around it. So like you mentioned, finding good creators that have an ROI on what they cost is very hard. You can find a creator with 20,000 followers and they want $500 a video. The video could flop. Then you lost $500. You can also have a creator with 1,000 followers that charges $50 a video and the video goes viral just because of the content. So I was at a point where I was trying to figure out a really efficient way of hiring UGC creators without breaking the bank and without taking big unproven bets. So I started posting UGC job ads on Indeed. And what would happen is a bunch of really young content creators who haven't really made their break yet would be on Indeed looking for these jobs, and they would apply. And then through the interview process, I realized, so for me, the best way to interview someone is to simulate the job that they'd be doing. How do you simulate that job? Well, make a video and let me test it. And let's see if it goes viral or not. And not only do you get to really find the best creator that way, but you also get a bunch of free content in the process. Now, I would offer these creators some amount of money because I didn't want them to feel like I was taking advantage of them. So I would pay them a small portion of probably what they're worth. But at the end of the day, it was an interview, and the best candidate did get a full-time job that I've been using. Not a full-time job, but a full gig where we're posting 3 times a week, 4 times a week for the past year on Chapie. And shout out Kylie. She's been doing an absolutely fantastic job.
I love that approach. And it reminds me, we had a guest on the show a few weeks ago. They've built an almost 9-figure business. It's like a high 8-figure business. It's crazy. And a lot of it has been on a single content creator, a single influencer. And they found that person in a different way than you. But it proves the point of when you find the right person really that gets it, that has an audience that is going to resonate with. And for them, she has a huge following already. So they tap into that, right? So the approach you're talking about can work for that, of course. But a lot of these content creators, it's not about their followers. It's just about their content. And then you can put it into your own followers, your own paid campaigns, et cetera. But very similar end result, right? Is finding somebody who's a great fit and a voice for the brand, almost becoming the pitch person for the brand. So absolutely love that. I think it's great. So often we do tests, and this works too, right? Getting a lot of variety, and then you end up with the top 5 or 10 or whatever the number is, right? But the top creators, and then trying to find more content that's like it. And we'll go back to them. But having that ability with a brand to go 3-4 times a week and keeping that voice very consistent, there's real power behind that. So it's back to my old days with OxyClean of Billy Mays, right? When you've got a celebrity, what became a celebrity, right? Because of the product in many ways, is the same thing for you. Kylie, I think you said her name is, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
She's been great. She's cracked, 500,000, almost 1 million views on several reels. She has a great hit rate. And really the key is finding this undiscovered talent that really hasn't had a breakthrough yet and is already charging, for someone who's consistently doing 500,000 views on reels, normally is charging, 1,000 a video. So, it definitely pays off after going through the interview process and finding other creators that really haven't been discovered.
And it is a different approach than kind of the standard. And again, another avenue that works where you're constantly getting new creators, new content, et cetera. Like this is not an approach you'd want to use if you're trying to get 10 new people every single month, right? Because it's a lot of work that goes into it, but to find that one voice for your audience. And it doesn't mean that it's the only voice, right? It might be a primary that is doing a lot of content, but you can keep the other avenue going as well. So I want to talk about the rest of your business too. So this has been a great success that you've really built up over the past few years, and you're being smart and really parlaying that success into more products, right? Building the brand, but using your knowledge, your experience, and really your marketing list to help to grow other products. Can you talk about what's the next big product you guys are working on?
So the next big product that has been under development for 2 years. We went through 7 iterations. It's a floating backpack cooler that has a built-in speaker compartment, a built-in USB battery, and it's actually right here next to me. This is it. It's called Coolio, and we're in the middle of rebranding it to Terra, just because four-letter brand name, a little sharper. Coolio is a great name for a cooler, but not a whole brand. So the idea was we make insulated products, and I'm a guy, and I don't really use chapstick or cosmetics that much. I don't use cosmetics at all. I use lip balm a little bit. So I wanted something that I connected with more. So the idea was, well, we make insulated containers. Let me try to make a cooler. It's also insulated and it's great for the outdoors. I like outdoors. It's kind of a match with me, and the brand is somewhere in between. So we tried to push the cooler as a pre-sale to Chapie customers, email list 50,000 customers at the time. And we didn't really have any bites. It wasn't really a good fit. Our customer base is more interested in cosmetics than, outdoor adventure. So me still thinking of the cooler as a passion project, wanted to create a whole brand about it. And we called it Coolio. And the cooler was produced, the pre-sale started in April of last year. We sold 100 pretty quick, and I had to turn off the pre-sales because I didn't want to sell a bunch of coolers. They're much more expensive than the Chapies and not be able to produce it. We had already gone through like 4 versions at this time, and it still wasn't where I wanted it to be, and I still didn't have a final price for what it would be at scale. So it took most of summer to flush those details out, come up with a final version. And by the time the coolers landed, it was September, and no one was buying coolers anymore. So we've been holding them. We're getting ready to relaunch the cooler around mid-March when summer starts to pick up again. And we're going to rebrand it to a company called Terra, where we're really focused on integrating tech with the outdoors, which is the perfect blend of my interests. And we've already kind of started the brand. It's called terragear.co. And we started off with winter clothes, like a heated vest, heated electrical hand warmers, heated scarves, heated gloves. And that's been going pretty well. We just broke almost 1,000 in revenue this week with the heated vests, and we're trying to scale that up, but we're kind of at the end of winter here, moving into the summer where the cooler's going to take the stage again.
Awesome. I love the approach. Right, 1,000 a week is not what you're going to end with, right? It's about, hey, we've got this proof very early in it. Okay, this is something that's scalable. So you're looking for these markers in a business launch to see which ones are going to work, which ones won't, et cetera, and then get behind the successful ones. So it's a great approach to continue building this business beyond your first set of products, which are great ideas, but how do you expand beyond that?
Absolutely. And right now we've kind of just been drop shipping the heated jackets, testing it as a proof of concept. So, winter's almost over, but by next winter, we will have the knowledge that we have now of testing different website structures, testing different ad structures. we'll have the foresight of what products worked, what didn't, and we'll be able to invest into branded, customized products for next winter under the Terra brand, which we're super excited about.
It's a great way to start with, when possible, obviously brand new ideas like Chapie and Chapie Pro, and even your cooler that are very specific and customized. It's hard to do, but other products like a heated jacket, you can start with drop shipping, prove the concept before you invest too much time or money behind it. So great approach to
And
follow.
improve the product. We have these jackets now, and there's a lot of room for improvement. With engineering degree and, tech meets outside, I'm excited to use some of that.
Absolutely. So before the show, you and I were chatting about some resources, books or audiobooks that have been helpful to you. I always love to share that because I know our audience, they listen to this show because they want to learn, right? How do they grow their business? How do they become more successful, learning from others like you that have done it? And books are a great way to do that on top of any podcasts we might listen to. You had a few. Would you mind sharing some of your favorites that have been really helpful in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to Great is a fantastic book. Highly recommend that. Talks about what companies, what makes a difference in a company that is good for a little bit of time and then kind of declines, to a long-lasting, enduring, great company that only gets better over 50, 100 years, like Ford and Johnson and Johnson, compared to Kodak, like what happened to them. So it looks at the difference between those company structures. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel talks about bringing an idea into a company. Really, really good book. And Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0, also a fantastic book. 7 highly effective habits, or 7 habits of highly effective people, another favorite. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a classic.
Absolutely. Those are all great books. And I think our audience might add this podcast interview to their list as well to enjoy probably again. This has been really fun. You've shared a lot of great nuggets of good advice, things that have worked for you that I think our audience can implement in their own businesses quickly to start to grow. So I really appreciate the time. I do want to tell our audience, please go to mychapie, CHAPIE.com, mychapie.com, to see his products. And you can also find him on Amazon. And then are you changing the URL for, now that you're rebranding to Terra, that they should go check out? Or is that's coming up in March, I think, right? For the new products?
Yes. By the time this goes live, the cooler should be up there. The cooler's also on Chapie.com for now. Its birthplace, but we will be shifting it over to terragear.co. That's TERA gear, GEAR.co.
Perfect. Please go check out his website. And also for our audience, did you know you can meet with a member of our team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help. So please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.